Hi, this is Swapnil Bhartiya, and welcome to Let's Talk About Kubernetes. This is our special episode for KubeCon, sponsored by alternate cloud provider Linode. And my next guest is Dean Agron, CEO and co founder of Oxeye. Dean, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Swap. It's good to have you.
Since this is the first time we're talking, I would love to know a bit about the company since you're a co-founder. So tell me what problem you saw in the market that you wanted to solve, which led to creation of this company.
So both me and Ron, both of us, arrived from the cybersecurity landscape. We've been there for a while now. I had multiple positions in additional companies, both engineering and business roles. Same goes with Ron. He was a security researcher for a long time and then managed R&D teams. Now we see two. I would say the main driver that moved us to opening Oxeye was the shift in the application technology landscape towards cloud native, towards the cloud native approach, and that's combined with the shift left movement in the cybersecurity landscape, handing over the responsibility and ownership of security to developers. Those were the main drivers which moved us towards building a new, I would say, a cloud native application security testing platform, and that's what Oxide provides.
Perfect. And as you're talking about, you saw a shift happening from, app development or traditional IT towards cloud native, and then also shift left when it comes to security. First of all, I want to understand from you, how different is security in the cloud native landscape versus regular app development or traditional IT? What unique challenges does it pose?
I think that the main challenge is the shift that was done with code vulnerabilities. This is one of the main challenges, and I'll elaborate. In the past, we had a big chunk of code on top of a server or multiple servers. That's the monolith application. Today, the code is everywhere. We have multiple components on top of microservices, on top of containers, everything orchestrated and on cloud environments. Now, this shift has a major effect on security, and especially it reflects the vulnerability landscape, the code vulnerabilities, because in the past, a code vulnerability started and ended on the same code base. Today, it starts with one component, which may be developed in-house, externally, maybe an open source component, which is open to the internet, and the vulnerability stretches to the sync component, which is the SQL write, for example. Now we are talking about a flow. So the vulnerability has changed from being in one code component to stretch over multiple components. Not only that, but now it also depends on the infrastructure layers, because if the container is configured in one way, then the risk or the severity of the vulnerability is one. But if the container is configured in another way, for example, sharing a namespace or sharing a resource with the host, then the vulnerability on the microservice the risk may be much higher. So that's, I think, what the shift to cloud native did to the vulnerabilities landscape. Another shift that we see, the second shift, the shift left, means that developers are required to own security. And the cost of remediation must be lower than today. We must find new ways to make the remediation time much more efficient. And in Oxeye, what we are doing is we are providing the developers very, very clear remediation guidance. We are taking what used to be provided by the static tools, dynamic tools, and interactive tools, and hand it over to them. And I think that's providing them what they need to resolve the vulnerabilities. I think that's another major challenge, which is part of the movement that I've just described.
I want to just discuss the second point that you talked about, the shift left, where security is becoming developers' responsibility. And yes, that's one of the big differences. In early times, I don't even know what is early times anymore, but in early times, security used to be someone else's problem, but now it is the problem of developer. We are also talking about a lot of paradigm shift, cultural shift. We talk about DevOps, DevSecOps. We talk about SREs. A lot of new, labels are also being created. With security, there used to be a silo. Security teams were there, and there was a bit of friction also between developers team, everything. Now we try to break the silos, but now we have kind of created new silos as well, if you look at it. So when we do talk about shift left, how much is actually happening? Because we still talk about these paradigm shifts. So, and that said, we still see rise in ransomware attacks and all those things. So how much is this just on paper, on trends, versus something that is happening in real life at companies as well?
Oh, it's a good question. It's a good question. I think that, like in every trend, what we read in the newspaper and what we see on the blogs and on the videos is a year ahead of us, or maybe more than that. But when we talk to CISOs along the road and AppSec leaders, their teams are getting smaller where new roles rise. For example, product security is a role that when I was a developer 10, 15 years ago, there was no such role as product security. DevSecOps is a combination of DevOps and security, but again, you never had such a role. And we see more and more security architect as part of the dev team. So even if not all developers have security as their second or third responsibility or ownership after they're providing what they need, I think it becomes more and more part of the process, part of the development life cycle, rather than just owning it.
Do you see yourself as a security player, or you see yourself as observability player? Because without knowing what's going on, how are you going to secure it?
So it's a great point, because one of our flags is contextual risk assessment. You need a security tool that has no observability. You're blind. And Oxeye focuses not only on finding vulnerabilities, but also finding the application flows, providing visibility to developers. And I think the best example for how Oxeye sees visibility as a major thing is we provide developers not only the line of code and how to reproduce the step for reproduction, the vulnerabilities, we provide a complete what we call vulnerable flow. Which component is calling to which message queue, to which S3 bucket. So when a solution is defined, sometimes it will be defined on a different place than where the vulnerability is. And we believe that visibility is an inherent part of solving and remediating security issues. So that's one of our core, I would say, core values when we build a new cloud native security product. You can't have cloud native without visibility. It won't last.
We have been talking about the problem areas a bit. I want to understand the solution area. Can you talk about what kind of solutions Oxeye have?
So Oxeye is an application security testing platform designed specifically to overcome the challenges imposed by cloud native architecture. Because what Oxeye does is, first, it analyzes the code vulnerability. It was just released, the new OWASP Top 10, the updated OWASP Top 10. So Oxeye will first analyze the code vulnerabilities across the microservices and enrich it with data from the different infrastructure layers. So this allows us, once we found the vulnerability, to first understand the application flows that are leading to it, and second, to understand the configuration of the layers beneath it to give it to give it context. And based on that context, provide risk assessment. Now, it's not only that we provide that, but Oxeye also has the edge of active testing. Because we see the flows, we initiate active testing, active security testing, like mini fuzzing on each vulnerability that we found. So the developers will receive only validated exploitable vulnerabilities. That's, I think that's the major functionality that our solution provides, pointing out the vulnerabilities, validating them, and then providing a holistic remediation guidance or complete remediation guidance to the developers.
You folks are going to be at KubeCon, but if I'm not wrong, you are still in a stealth mode. So this is an interesting stealth mode, right? You are going out publicly, but you're still in stealth mode. So can you quickly talk about what plans you have for getting out of stealth mode, what strategies you have, and how are you planning to make a big splash in this cloud native world?
Sure thing. Thank you for the question. So today we are 12 employees. We are already running with multiple design partners. Among them are Fortune 200 players. We plan to go out of stealth in the upcoming weeks, and we are working with our design partners to release our MVP in the upcoming month. Now, our strategy on top of that is to be involved in the community. My CDO, Ron Vider, is a project leader of the OWASP Top 10 Cloud Native Security. We are also very involved in the CNCF, in the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, contributing code and being part of the community. And we believe that today's tools are bought bottom up. You need to convince the working or the engineers that this product provides value and saves time and effort. And that's what we are focusing on, building a tool that it's very easy to install. It will be completely self-serve. Just download it and install it. And once you did it, you will see the value very, very quickly. And that's how we are building the product. That's why we are headed to KubeCon. DevOps engineers, software engineers. This is the audience that I believe today you need to convince. They need to want to use the product, and once they do, the organization will follow them. Today the leaders are the engineers and the DevOps. So this is the audience that we are focusing on. I hope it answers your question.
Dean, thank you so much for taking time out from your schedule and talk about the company, your focus area, and also the whole trend that we're seeing in the cloud native space in terms of security. And I am already excited to see company get out of stealth mode and looking towards our next conversation. Thank you.
Swap, thank you very much for your time. It was a great session. Thank you very much.